I am Janette from Germany, the owner of the company PanAm Tours, specialized in guided camper van tours, RV tours. And we do a tour that's called the PanAmericana, the Pan-American Journey. It consists of 30,000 kilometers, which is about 19,000 miles, 14 countries, and usually it lasts about 6.5 months, 200 days. But when, like in 2020, a pandemic hits, nobody could really see that coming. The tour took a little bit longer, so we got stuck in Costa Rica when in March 2020 the borders closed, and instead of just like flying home, most of us decided to stay in Costa Rica. And that was the first part I showed like a week ago. And so we first traveled all the way from Argentina, through Argentina, Chile, Bolivia, Peru, Ecuador, Colombia, Colombia. Then we shipped the vans to Panama, Costa Rica. Then we spent a couple of months in Costa Rica. And now I'm going to show you what we did once everybody came back. So when we stranded, nobody knew if it was possible to continue the trip. But we said, if it's possible, January 21, we come back and continue the journey. And that's what we did. And that's what I'm going to show you now. And we had quite a lot of questions in our mind. Like, is it really a smart idea to travel through Latin America in the middle of a pandemic? What if somebody gets sick or even worse? What if we have to quarantine again? What if borders closed and we get stuck one more time? And beside all those concerns, we just did it and dared the leap into the unknown. And to see each other again, it was such a joy. So I've stayed in Costa Rica all the time, but most of the people had a little break and they came back January 7th. They flew back from Germany, Switzerland, from Europe, back to San Jose, Costa Rica. And we got our motorhomes out of the custom bond and made them all ready for the trip again. And instead of heading right north, we decided to spend a couple of days in the beautiful Costa Rica. That's a place where you've also been to with the Odyssey, so the nature is just amazing. And during those crazy wild times of the pandemic, we were even able to enjoy it more. So there's a spectacular, unique flora and fauna, and one of my favorite countries so far. We went to the Pacific coast. And most of the beaches are untouched, unspoiled, no hotels in sight, perfect places for wild camping. And we go to Ostionales on the Nicoya Peninsula, where the sea turtle come ashore to lay their eggs. And they lay plenty of eggs. And in water, they move around effortlessly. On land, it's quite hard for them to move around, so you can tell. We got up early, it's right after sunrise, beautiful warm light. It's just us and the sea turtles. And during my stay in Costa Rica, I went back to that place a couple of times. So 6 weeks later, you have the small ones that are born. And there are a lot of predators, not only the vultures or some stray dogs, unfortunately, even the humans, because some people still believe that turtle eggs do have aphrodisiac properties, which is stupid, but that's why they still eat it in soups until today. It's January, winter, cold, great temperature. It's not a nice place to be in Germany so far. We are lucky that we made this decision to come to beautiful Central America. Just some hours of driving away is the cloud forest in the middle of the country. The highest point of the Pan-American Highway in Central America, it's called the Cerro de la Muerte, at 3,400 meters high. It's almost 11,000 feet. Home to lots of birds. You have over 900 different bird species in Costa Rica, not only toucans, colibris, there are many others. And this one is quite tricky to spot. For me, it's one of the most beautiful ones. For the Maya, it was a sacred bird. It's the quetzal. This is the female, and I must admit, the male is a lot prettier than the female version. This is a male quetzal. Look at those long feathers. They grow up to 1 meter long. It's a truly jewel for every bird lover. A sloth. They are truly lazy. They only come down once a week and spend most of their life just chilling, sleeping. And sometimes we are lazy too. We spend a lot of hours in front of our wheels driving. So we need some activity. So we take every opportunity to go for a hike. And there are plenty of waterfalls in Costa Rica that make for a perfect hiking destination. That's me.
Yeah.
Well, a little bit younger version of me, but the Tenorio National Park with the Rio Celeste, gorgeous waterfall. And during those times, there were hardly any other tourists, so we had all those beautiful places basically to ourselves. And of course, we can't leave Costa Rica without coming back to this place where we spent 4 months, the beginning of the pandemic in March 2020, little Switzerland. And coming back here truly feels like coming home. Arenal volcano. But traveling in those crazy pandemic times wasn't as carefree as before. For every border, we had to prove that we're not sick. So we had to get on a PCR test. And the next day, we got the results back. Everyone was negative, which was really positive news. The border was impressed to see that many tourists. They haven't seen tourists for several months, about a year without any foreigners crossing this place. So they were kind of overwhelmed and didn't really know what to do with us. They disinfected the vehicles and took our temperature many, many times and went over all the documents, and we had to photocopy documents and then photocopy the photocopy. It took 9 hours in total. It was a really long day. So in Latin America, you just have to be very patient. And they used the time to build a whole new border complex. And I think we were the first ones to use it, but yeah, the system wasn't quite running yet. And we had to go through X-rays with our vehicles. And in Nicaragua, drones are highly forbidden. You can't take them. So I was just carrying it around in my bag the entire time, and nobody ever dared to look in there. So don't tell anyone. The last step, we had to get local insurance. And then finally, after 9 long hours later, welcome to Nicaragua. And we took our first wild camp spot on the shore of Nicaragua Lake. Next day, we're exploring Granada, a beautiful colonial city, Spanish heritage in Nicaragua. Only an hour drive away is the Masaya National Park, where you can actually drive up to a crater of an active volcano. It's really impressive. You park right there, and you have thick smoke coming out. And once the darkness comes in, you can really see the lava glowing inside of the crater. A truly unique experience. Another wild camping spot on the shore of Managua Lake. The capital used to put all their wastewater unfiltered into the lake. So the lake was kind of dead, and they stopped doing that, so it's slowly recovering since 2004. We have a view of 2 volcanoes. One is still active. The big one, it's called Momotombo. And this is just perfect that A motorhome, a little camper van, gives you the chance to like spend your night in remote places where there aren't any Airbnb or hotels, and it's just us in the middle of nature and a small fishing village. I'm usually up early in the morning too. Local fishermen just come back, and some of my group just buy the fresh fish. Another border crossing, and well, we've already prepared that it can take some time. This time we go from Nicaragua to Honduras, and another COVID test is required. This time it's not the PCR test, they have a different system. They just take a bit of your blood, and after 1 hour they know if you have COVID or not. And again, we got lucky, everybody is negative. But it still just takes a very long time.
What would happen if you were positive?
If one of us were positive, we would all have to quarantine for 14 days at least. Yeah, because we're considered a family, a group traveling together. So one is positive, we're all out of the game for 2 weeks. And what do they do with all those photocopies? Well, some guys said it just like to keep the machinery running, and they just collect it and burn it after a couple of weeks. So yeah. Sometimes you just have to accept circumstances even though they don't really make sense to us, right? We pass Tegucigalpa, the capital of Honduras, and head towards Copan Ruinas, a quiet little town, famous for the southernmost archaeological Maya sites. It's also UNESCO World Heritage Site, and usually you have lots of other groups like Asian people from all over the world. This time we basically have all those places to ourselves. Copan Ruinas. It's famous for these, they're called stele, and each one of them tells a story about one of the kings that reigned in Copan Ruinas. And to me, maybe even more interesting than the archaeological site itself are those beautiful, colorful macaws. Next camp spot is at the marina, with people with their sailing boats from all over the world. And we are already in Guatemala now. Next morning, we go on a boat ride from Rio Dulce towards the Caribbean Livingston. We see lots of birds and water lilies and just a beautiful day out on a boat. Ancient Fort San Felipe. Life here is simple, but people seem to be happy. In the evening, we all meet for a sundowner. So far, everybody's healthy, well-spirited, so far so good. I hope it stays that way. We mixed fresh watermelon juice with vodka. It was quite yummy. Flores on a little island in a lake called Petenica. And our campsite right at the entrance of the most famous Maya site in Guatemala, it's called Tikal. So we spent 2 entire days there to really enjoy this magic place in the middle of Guatemaltecan jungle. And the highest temple look over the canopy of the trees, and temples are perfectly aligned with the sun. It's an outstanding, magical place. And you don't see any other tourists, right? So that was something good about the pandemic. A very modern ferry takes us over the Rio de la Pasión, the river of passion. I don't know where they got the name from, but might be an interesting story, who knows? A less known region in Guatemala, Alta Verapaz. And once more, Janette is up early, flying her drone around. And this area has one of the biggest cave systems in the Americas. It's called the Cueva de la Candelaria, and it's over 80 kilometers long. Here you can still feel like a discoverer or explorer. Some hotels have 5 stars. Ours, also here with the Odyssey, we have a 1,000,000-star hotel. Yeah, for the front-wheel drive vehicles, even a slight hill gravel road is a huge challenge and sometimes too much to handle. But as you might know, to every problem there is a solution. And yes, weight matters too. So this one, the big one, it's not the perfect vehicle for such an adventure. But together, we managed that situation as well. It's a coffee plantation and local TV heard of us. We were the first tourists in over 1 year, so local TV came by and interviewed me. So the whole program got really delayed. So we visited the coffee plantation after the interview. And at the end, it was followed by a coffee tasting. And they had different preparation forms, and everyone was interesting and different. And I had, I don't know, maybe 7 espressi and 4 coffee. And well, it was an interesting night because I did a lot of things, but I did definitely not sleep. But the coffee was great. Next day, we had an appointment at a local garage, a repair shop, but we didn't even make it that far. So our big one here, the clutch was broken, and it was a Saturday morning, and to find a tow truck for this size of vehicle in the middle of nowhere, it's not really realistic. So our good contacts all over the place made it possible that 4 mechanics, they came by, brought their tools, and changed the clutch right at the spot. I think in the US it wouldn't quite work like that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it was truly impressive. Like, the circumstances were quite challenging, but they did it. And after a couple of hours, they were ready to go back on the road. So, how much was the bill? In comparison, it's nothing, peanuts. It's really, yeah. So probably they got more tips than the actual bill was. One of my favorite cities, not only of Guatemala, but the entire Pan-American trip, is the former capital of Guatemala called Antigua. It's surrounded by, you've been there, right? Somebody said, yeah. Surrounded by several active volcanoes, and it's just magic. I can walk around there for days without getting bored.
Is anything open?
Oh yes, so restaurants were open. They just had to leave every second table empty. So they were allowed to work on a capacity of 50%. But yeah, and here's the proof that the volcano was active and even going with the music, right? And at night we were even able to see a bit of the lava. Our camp spot in the middle of the city. We had to change the itinerary because a landslide blocked the way where we were supposed to go. But Uwe and his girlfriend, the ones who guided the first group, they were a couple of days ahead to check everything. So we had this information and could react and take a different route. And in a situation like this, you're happy if you have a minimum of clearance. Sometimes we do that on purpose. It's like the salt in the soup, to add a little bit of adventure. And you don't really see it, but it was quite a steep road. The beautiful Atitlan Lake, it's called the Blue Jewel of Guatemala, also surrounded by several volcanoes. And by boat, we visit some of the local villages and are really impressed by all those different cultures. There are today even 53 different languages still actively spoken in Guatemala. So for most of those people, Spanish isn't their first language, it's the first foreign language they learn at school. Like every place, every province has their own ancient version of a Maya language. It's not just a dialect, it's each language on its own. These were the old school buses imported from the US and beautifully painted. And a bus takes us to the local market in Chichicastenango. The basketball field, once a week, turns into the local market. What bread is in our culture is the tortilla in Guatemala and Mexico. In El Salvador, they are called pupusas. Nowadays, most of those countries are officially Catholic, but they still also have their Maya beliefs. So if they have a problem or they want to say a prayer, they do both. They go to church, pray to God, and at the same time go to the local shaman, just in case. The original itinerary would also go through Belize, but Belize, due to COVID, was still very closed, so it wasn't possible for us to enter this country. Then we went from Guatemala directly to Mexico instead. And once we entered Mexico, I was quite relieved. I was like, okay, if we get stuck again, it's such a big country, no problem to spend a couple of months here. So far, so good. And at that time, the land border for tourists to enter the USA was still closed. And every month we were hoping for good news that the border was open. People were able to fly in, but the land border for like non-US citizens at that time was still closed. But we're still enjoying beautiful Mexico. That's the Sumidero Canyon. First day, we take our time to go to the different viewpoints to see the canyon from above. And then we spent the night next to the river. and next day explore the canyon by boat from below. Sumidero Canyon is kind of in the south, very close to the border of Guatemala. During this trip, we spent 4 months only in Mexico and saw not so much and could have even spent more time because we still haven't seen it all. Nobody wanted to swim here. In Mexico, you have the free roads with a lot of like topes. Is there a name for in English? Like the speed bumps, yeah. But you can also go on the so-called quota where you pay and you don't have those speed bumps. We visit San Cristobal de las Casas in Chiapas. It's another truly beautiful town, and a local guide takes us to 2 indigenous villages, Tzinacatan and Chamula. They still have like a privileged situation, like they have their own laws, they have their own police, their own school. It's like a small world in Mexico. They even once killed a missionary who came there and wanted to convert them to a different belief. So they are special. We're on our way to Agua Azul. Local gas stations, usually they look like we know the ones in the US and Germany, and sometimes they're a little bit more simple. And again, the big advantage of having your own camper van, you can spend the night at places where no hotels are to be found. And if there's not a pandemic, this is a very popular place. Like thousands of tourists, state tourists, come here every day. So the advantage for us, we spend the night. So in the morning or late afternoon, we have this place to ourselves. But during the day, it gets quite crowded. And it's called Agua Azul, the blue water. And it's a couple of kilometers with those beautiful little cascades and natural swimming pools, and it's just gorgeous. Next destination, Palenque. Another beautiful Maya place in the middle of the jungle. All these other tourists. And at that time in Germany, it was still very restrictive. So this would not have happened at the same time in Germany. So life in Mexico was pretty much back to normal already when we were still practicing social distance and all those COVID rules. And then we reach the Caribbean coast. We are way south of Playa del Carmen. And the colors look like in French Polynesia, right? My assistant Maria will leave us the next day. So I have a little cocktail and celebration in her honor. And next day I get up early because we have another vehicle with technical problems. And even with my scanner, we can't really solve it. So we go to Cancun and they discover that the diesel particle filter is clogged. So typical scene, 1 is working and 3 are just like standing there watching, not really doing anything. And we take the filter out and open it and clean it. And this whole procedure takes the whole day. They put it back in and the car still doesn't work. It doesn't have power. So next day we try somewhere else. It's a technology that's just not very known in Mexico. So if you have problems with like our modern technology, sometimes it's difficult because they don't really have the tools and knowledge. And my new colleague Sandra arrived. I picked her up from the airport looking like this. I didn't have time to shower, so she was quite shocked. But yeah, next day the view was nice. This is our campsite next to Tulum, south of Playa del Carmen. And a special thing in Mexico, especially Yucatan, are those cenotes. Cenotes are like holes filled with water, perfect for diving, snorkeling, or just cooling down, swimming. And there's still 2 more Maya sites before we finish with this culture, Chichen Itza and Uxmal. There's a lot of literature out there how all those temples are perfectly aligned with the sun, with certain star constellation, and their knowledge back then was really impressive. And we always try to make a mix between culture and nature, but more focused on nature. And one highlight is this boat trip from Celestun, where we saw hundreds or maybe thousands of flamingos. When they are born, their feathers are gray. They get their color through their food. And on our way back to our camper vans through the mangroves. Mexico does have some real campsites or RV park because of the influence of the snowbirds, Americans who like to come down and spend their winter. So that is one of those campsites on Isla Aguada. They're so happy to have us. Only visitors as usual during that time. And another boat trip, not to see flamingos, but to see dolphins. And we spent over an hour, no dolphin showed up. So we were on our way back home and then some dolphins finally showed up. Sometimes they look like they're smiling. Close to Veracruz, we stop at the waterfall Eyipantla. If you have a self-contained RV, you don't really need infrastructure. As long as there's a huge parking spot or a huge grassy area, you're good. That's all we need. We reached the Gulf of Mexico. It's our campsite south of Veracruz. And as you see, the group is slightly smaller than when we started. We started with 2 groups of about 18 or 19 vehicles each and only continued with 14 RVs. All the others at some point decided to ship their RVs back to Europe or went directly to the US. So only few actually continued their Pan-American journey with us. We reach Puebla and celebrate another birthday. And that's the funny thing, it's the first group that actually get to celebrate some birthdays twice. Now we had Easter twice, so it never happened before. Since in total with that group, with some of them I spent 19 months. So we got to know each other quite well. From Puebla and Cholula, we make a little detour to Popocatépetl. It's a Nahuatl, a Maya language, and it translates to Smoky Mountain. It's over 5,400 meters high, and we spent the night at like 3,700, so it gets quite chilly at night. also an active volcano. We discussed quite a lot of time if it's a smart thing to do during a pandemic to visit a huge city like Mexico City with over 20 million people. But nobody was really driven by fear anymore, and everybody decided, yeah, let's go check it out. So we decided on visiting some highlights of the city, like the Anthropological Museum and the swimming gardens of Xochimilco. And since the mariachi band wasn't allowed to travel on the same boat as we just got them their own boat. But yeah, with the distance, actually, I think in the end it was kind of the same thing. What time? Well, now we started in January, so that was January, February, March. Now we are in April, kind of.
What year?
2021. This is the second largest pilgrimage place of the Catholic people after Rome. El Palacio de Bellas Artes by day and by night. We usually spend a little bit more time in Mexico City, but we decided to not risk it too much and just pick out some highlights, and we made a very long city tour with just one day. Teotihuacan, it's the city of the gods. This is even older than the Maya site. Very little is known about this ancient culture. The two major temples are called the Temple of the Moon and the Temple of the Sun. This is a fascinating thing. The monarch butterfly migrates every year all the way from Canada to one specific place in Mexico. And it's not even the same butterfly that leaves Canada that arrives, because they only live a couple of days. So like other butterflies are born on the way, and they still end up at the same spot every year to pass the winter. And I mean, they don't have, Google Maps or navigation system, so it's quite impressive. I don't really know how they do that. There are millions of them. Camping at Chapala Lake, it feels a little bit like Lago Maggiore or Lago di Garda in Italy. It's close to a city called Guadalajara. And we're back to the Pacific Ocean. So we've been to the Caribbean, the Atlantic, we've visited the Gulf of Mexico, and now we're back to the Pacific Ocean. Waking up with a view of the ocean, you're used to it, you have that basically every day. For us, it's still something special. Camping in Mazatlan. And these people are just crazy. Timing is everything. It's crucial. If they get the timing wrong, it has fatal results. The water has to be high enough the moment they enter the water. I wouldn't do that for no matter how much money in the world. These are the vehicles that drive us around in Mazatlan. It's not only a beach city, they also have like an old colonial town. The tequila factory was still closed during COVID. They didn't receive us, but they were happy to sell some tequila. So that was the most important part, right? So in the evening, we had a lovely tequila tasting, and somebody said, if you drink tequila of a very high quality, no matter how much you drink, you will not get a headache. Tell you what, that was a lie. We take the ferry to Baja California, And that's typical Mexico. The ferry was supposed to leave at 7 p.m. At 3 a.m. we were still waiting for the ferry. Yeah, but we made it eventually. And yeah, the border to the US was still closed, so we decided to prolong the trip for another month and yeah, spend kind of vacation of the trip, not to slow down and spend a day here and there just doing nothing. That's what sea days are on the Odyssey. Drinks had a reasonable size, so it wasn't too bad. My favorite place on Baja California is San Jose de Cabo. It's the very southernmost tip. Nice little restaurants, bars, art galleries. And we find a nice beach to camp. Some animals stopped by, say hello. And there are so many beaches, and you even have them on both sides, right? Like, you know the shape of Baja California, so it's quite long, 1,200 kilometers long and quite narrow, so there's water on both sides and so many beaches and lots of place for wild camping. That's the beach of Santos. That's the city where the Hotel California is. Well, people who live there claim it is the Hotel California, but the Eagles actually never confirmed that. So we will never know. Baja California isn't all about beach. They have quite some interesting landscape in the interior part as well, some old missionaries. And yes, some, how do you say, cactus? Cacti? Cactus. Just playing around with the drone. One of the most beautiful beaches in Baja California, that's the one we picked to spend the Easter holiday. It's our second Easter with this group. It's called Playa Requesón. This is probably the beach that represents the Baja California the most. It was so beautiful that we decided to spend two entire days here. No cell phone connection. Back then I didn't have Starlink, so we were really away from everything, just enjoying nature. And we still got along surprisingly well after all those months together. No big drama, still nice. The next day was a short drive, only 11 kilometers, because there was another beautiful beach we absolutely had to stop, the Playa Santispac. Another 2 birthdays to celebrate that day. The colors of the water match the colors of my motorhome. It almost looks like northern lights. Only the main road is paved on the Baja California. All those little side roads here and then are usually unpaved. And here you can see how tall the cactus actually are. It's quite impressive. My camper van is like 3 meters 50 high. Now we are at Mulegé. It's a region known for some petroglyphs, like paintings on rocks. And I hired a local guide to find them, and he couldn't believe it. He was like, "You actually have some real tourists with you?" I was like, "Yeah, some real tourists. We would like to go on a hike with you." And his wife made sandwiches and cookies for all of us. So they were so happy to finally get some work again. Also, they was basically out of business for an entire year. Little canyon. Yeah, and that's the thing what happens sometimes if you have dual tires, little stones or rocks get stuck. But yeah, we got it out, and I have my own compressor, so I could easily fill up the tires with air again, and I was good to go. Next stop at Cataviña, wonder world of cactus. Next day, little hike. Some of the plants are endemic to this place. That means they only grow there and nowhere else. These are called, no, this one. No, I don't know how these are called, but they're beautiful. These are Sirius. This place reminds me a bit of Joshua Tree. Well, then the next big city is far away. There's no light pollution, perfect conditions to watch the night sky. So when normal people sleep, I stay up and take pictures and time lapses of the stars. There are some wineries. Actually, wine is produced in the northern part of Baja California. That's a perfect thing. Like, you do a wine tasting, you don't have to drive afterwards. Unfortunately, the land border stayed closed, so that was a big bummer for all of us. This night was supposed to be like the farewell dinner, and then we would enter the US, but no, they still didn't want us at that time. So yeah, that's the border. You can see there the borderline. Actually, it's not Donald Trump who started this project. It was Bill Clinton back in '94, you know, the border between US and Mexico. 3 couples didn't believe me. They were like, "We're gonna try. We convinced them to let us in." Nah, didn't happen. So what do you do if you can't drive further north? Well, you turn around and say, well, what's 1 month more, right? I mean, we've already been together for like 18 months, so let's do another more month and drive back to Veracruz, where we've been before, but we take a completely different itinerary. And from Veracruz, you have one ship a month to ship the RVs or camper vans back to Germany. So some days we were a little bit frustrated and sad. You know, sometimes the itineraries don't work out as they were planned, right? I think we all know that. And disappointment kicks in, but yeah, we didn't really let that get us. Like, after a couple of days, we were back just enjoying Mexico and having a good time. There's always a reason, and this part of Mexico was completely new to me, and I always like having plan Bs, so I started planning this part a couple of months earlier because I said what I'm gonna do if the US stay closed. I need to come up with something. So I was like looking at Google Earth and trying to find places, and yeah, it somehow worked out. So this is really an unknown part of Mexico. It's a salt desert, and this is called El Pinacate, or the Big Desert of Altar. It looks like in the middle of the Sahara in northern part of Mexico. I love this place. Isn't that gorgeous? I'm always quite busy also while I'm driving, like reconfirming reservation, make sure that everything goes well. So I was driving one time and I didn't realize that the highway ended up in a small village. So I got caught speeding with like almost 100 kilometers where only 40 has been allowed. So I was like, I'm sorry, I know that was a little bit too fast, but the police officers liked me. They were like, oh, if you're willing to cooperate with us, and if I can like have a selfie with you and get your phone number and can see your motorhome and you give me $20 and it's okay. I was like, okay, deal. So sometimes it's just nice to be a woman. And in the evening we had a birthday and some guy was in a very bad humor and I asked, what's wrong? He was like, well, I caught speeding with 57 where only 50 was allowed. I paid $160. And I was like, I also caught up speeding. He was like, how much did you pay? I was like, almost the same. I didn't want to tell. That's a nice place in Guaymas and El Fuerte and Alamos. And have you heard of the Copper Canyon? Yes, in Spanish it's Barranca del Cobre, so we take El Chepe. We travel first class. Look at the spelling. I hope their service is better than their spelling skills, right? Yeah, this is a truly unique experience for train lovers. They have, I don't know how many bridges and tunnels, and it's quite an interesting ride. Barranca del Cobre in Spanish. That's our hotel. It's like an eagle's nest with a beautiful view of the canyon, which in size is quite comparable to the Grand Canyon. It's even bigger, yeah. I didn't want to say it because, you know, every American is very proud of the Grand Canyon, so. But you're right. Talking about size, it's actually bigger. So if the border to the US had been open, we would not have been able to see that. So in every bad thing that happens, something good comes out of it, right? Next day we walk along the edge of the canyon and take a bus ride and visit the local people who actually live inside of the canyon. They are called Raramuri, and that's how they live, in those basic, can't even tell it, houses, like caves. That's the Valley of the Monks. And we take the train back to Los Mochis. In Mexico, there are a couple of really nice and unique villages. They're called Pueblos Mágicos, the magic villages of Mexico. And this is one of them. It's called Mexcatitlan. You can only reach it by boat. In like 10 minutes, you've walked around the entire island. That's how small it is. And it feels like traveling back in time. That's the last night at the Pacific Ocean. Next day, we moved towards Guanajuato, big university city. Don't try to drive your camper van to the town center. You will get lost or probably get stuck because some of the roads are quite narrow. I love how colorful these places are in Mexico. And maybe even a bit prettier still is San Miguel de Allende, only 1 hour away from Guanajuato. If I had to pick a place to settle down in Mexico, it would probably be this little town. It's also considered one of the safest places in Mexico because some of the bosses of the drug cartels live there. So nothing's gonna happen there. It sounds weird, but it's true. That's a little gem, the Grutas de Tolantongo. And they disinfect our camper vans. And when it's dry, it's really not a problem to drive down, but it rained before. So the road was so slippery. We kind of made it down, but there was no way we're going to make it up again under these conditions. And we had the ferry, the ship booked to take our camper vans back. So actually the time was ticking and I was a bit nervous. But yeah, the sun was on our side. Next day it was a bright sunny day and luckily the road dried up and we made it back to the top again. It's quite an interesting place. So the river is warm water. It's a thermal bath, hot springs on the edge with a beautiful view. During the day it gets crowded, so I got up right after sunrise to have it all to myself. It's always worth getting up early.
What's the name of this?
Grutas de Tolantongo. The last archaeological place next to Veracruz, El Tajín. It was closed. We weren't able to get in, so I just did a quick drone flight. And now we are aware that it's officially over. We made it to Veracruz. So it's the last campfire, and everybody's still like, can't we just keep on driving and go somewhere else? Nobody really wanted the whole Pan-American journey to end. But yeah, it kind of was the end. So most of the people decided to ship their RVs back from there. Only 4 still stayed in Mexico and waited for the border to open. And we did a huge celebration, a farewell celebration. I wrote a poem about our trip, about this experience in German, in French. And people made sketches and came up with poems as well. And we had a band and danced the whole night and yeah, just celebrated our decision to continue the journey and celebrated life. Vreni also wrote a very touching poem to thank me. It was really beautiful. I got goosebumps when she was talking. It was beautiful. When we all started back in November 2019, we all started as a bunch of foreigners. We didn't know each other. At the end, I was a tour guide and they were paying clients, right? They signed up for a trip that was supposed to last 200 days, 6.5 months. And in the end, we spent with some of them almost 19 months. Some went home for a couple of months, but some stayed during the entire time. And we started as foreigners and we ended this trip as friends. And we're still very much in contact until today, meet up every year. Once again, I will organize a reunion in my hometown in Bavaria next year in June. And this group was just amazing. And I was so thankful for this experience. And there's this saying, you usually regret those things in life you have not done. That's why all of you, I mean, I don't have to tell you because you are already doing it. You're living your dream, you're not waiting. But there's so many people out there, I don't know in the US, but in Germany, you have plenty of people who live an unhappy life. They just complain, they're negative all the time, and they have projects for one day when I retire, one day. And who knows, maybe this one day will actually never arrive because they die of a heart attack or get hit by a bus or whatever. So everybody here understood that because you're living your dream on the Odyssey that takes you around the world in 4 years, which I think is a truly amazing concept, by the way. And I do my little RV tours in South and Central America. Since that long trip, things went kind of back to normal. So we still had a pause in 21, 22, but finally started with like the normal tour, 200 days in November 22, and then another one in 23 and 24. And I did a break in 25 that allows me to be here and enjoy this Odyssey journey with us, with you. But I'm going to start again with 2 groups in November this year. Another PanAmericana. If you want to follow my adventures, just ask me. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Just look at Panam Tour from PanAmericana, or just like Panama, but without the last A. Or you can also track the journey on the app Polar Steps and follow our little road trip. And it's none is the same like the trip before. They're all different. And in Latin America, things are never boring, like here. And on our last day, we were just like reliving the highlights and bringing up some memories of the best things we had, like a recap. So thanks for virtually traveling with me on this road trip. Thanks for having me. I'm glad you came. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope I could give you some inspiration for maybe a distant future, I don't know. And I'm happy to be part of your beautiful community here, and enjoy the rest of your evening. And if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them now or any day here on the Odyssey. I'm still here until Sydney, February 20th. Thank you so much. Gracias. Thank you.